What happens if your buyer does not accept the seller's counteroffer? So you made an offer, right, to a seller on a real estate property, and then the seller says, "No, I'm not accepting that. I don't want those terms." Well, first of all, you're like scared, aren't you? You're like, "Oh my gosh, I thought I had this deal going. I thought it was all good to go. I collected the check and everything, and my buyer signed off, but the seller says no." What do you do? How do you handle that? Hi, I'm Paul R. Atkinson, your professional coach, and I'm going to show you just what you could do to handle that. Now, it's more of like, what do you do to keep moving forward? That's what it's really all about. How do you keep that buyer keep moving forward? That's the main ingredient in what I'm about to show you right now. But remember, in the description, click on the link and find the resources that's going to help you to be more productive in your business, how to handle objections, how to keep the deal, the sale moving forward. So let's talk about it. You've made an offer with a buyer and done everything. Fill out the paperwork, everything the way it's supposed to be. And then you were thinking that even though perhaps you made the full asking price, maybe the seller came back and said, "Well, you know what? We don't want this term and we don't want that term." They didn't say no. They're just saying that, "Hey, listen, one or two of the terms that you've put in the deal, we just don't want it." How do you handle that? What is the smartest way to move it forward? Here are three things that I'm going to tell you that you need to do. Number one, you have to make sure that you have a strong connection with the seller's representative. And if for some reason you're playing like a transaction broker and you're like, doing both sides in whatever municipality you're in, it's okay to do that. Then you got to make sure that you have a good connection with yourself, right? Obviously, because you got to be able to communicate through the seller's agent into the mind and the ears of the seller. So that's number one. You've got to have a great connection with the selling agent, which in turn give you the ability to communicate with the seller because they have a connection. And that could be you. So that's number one. Number two, you have to take it calm and easy. And I like to say that you are going to burn the candle. This is hard. From both sides. So here's a candle. You're going to light the fire here and light the fire there. It's going to burn from both sides. That means you're going to be negotiating with the buyer and the seller at the same time to bring the deal together, because obviously you're operating as a transaction broker. You're not being a single agent. You're representing the transaction. That's the way I normally do it, and most of us here in Florida. So if you are representing the transaction, then you should be burning the candle from both sides. So what you're doing is you're working with the seller to say, "Hey, listen, I totally understand this term that you're wanting, but I just want to explain why the buyer is having a difficulty or a hard time to be able to push forward with this. Can we meet in the middle?" And then at the same time, you're telling the buyer, "Hey, listen, let's understand what the seller is wanting to see. And the reason why they want to see it is because X, Y, Z." So you've got to negotiate and bring the two people together. And then typically you could end up where you're like, "You know what? How about we meet in the middle?" Whether it's price, whether it's number of days for certain things, like a loan approval time frame. Let's say you put on the contract 30 days and the seller comes back and say, "30 days too long. Can you do it in 21 days?" Well, go get information, if you haven't already, from the lender for the buyer and say, "Can we make this thing smaller?" Because the seller wants to see that. Lender comes and say, "No, I need 30 days. And then you say, "Why? Can you please tell me why?" And then he says why, and then you go back to the seller and you burn that candle. Number three, the final thing that you need to do to make sure that the buyer can move forward with the counteroffer is just breaking down the reasoning why the seller is wanting to see this. And then what are the benefits for the buyer? Number one, for example, the buyer wanted to see this house because of the school district, because of whatever. So you've got to make it point out in the buyer's mind that, listen, the seller is wanting this little term, and we did check it out. You aren't capable of doing that or not. right? Leave it up to them. And if you did that movement, it would actually cause you to get this property. Now, if you didn't do this movement, then you actually stand a chance of not getting the property. And is it worth it? That movement that you're not going to do, is it worth it? People, this is all honesty. It's like straight up. It's like this open thing. I studied this thing called Johari window. And when you have this closure and positive feedback in your communication, it helps you to move the deal forward. So those are the three things that I want to tell you. You get a counter offer, you got to be able to make sure you have a connection with the seller's agent. Then you have to make sure that you're burning, right? Look at me. I said, right, this is a candle. Burn the candles from both ends. That means it's gonna burn fast. Wax gonna come now. Oh, it's burning from both sides. And then you're gonna make sure that you're openly showing the benefits of moving forward and not moving forward, because it's the truth. To the buyer, you got to show that to the buyer. What are the benefits, or what are the pros and cons? How about that? You like those words? What are the pros and cons of moving forward or not moving forward? Let them decide. That's part of how persuasion is and influence is. You need to be a leader and show them the way, educate the client to say, hey, listen, if we did this, and then you know what? I want to just add a bonus here. You've got to respect their decision. This is not a pushy sales business. You don't push on people. After you educate them and you show them what's going on, and they decide that, you know what? No, I'm just not feeling it. No. You just respect that and you say, you know what? I totally understand how you feel. No worries. I've got some more options. Let's get back out there. How about tomorrow? I could take you out tomorrow, 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock. What's good for you? Back on the street, show them what's going on, and find another property. It will work out. It's all good. Sometimes I got to tell you this. We would go ahead and not accept or try to deal with a counter offer, and it gets blown up because the seller's agent is also cocky and mighty. And we say, man, I'm so sorry, we can't make it happen. And then when we move on, a couple of days later, that same agent and that same seller typically would come back to us and say, hey, you guys, we were thinking about going with you. Too late. It's too late because we already found something else. You got to keep them moving. Inside the description, find the tool that's going to help you to move your client forward most successfully. Remember, the 5 steps of the sale is there for you. You've got to be able to connect with someone. You've got to make them curious, and you've got to make a presentation. When you make the presentation very good, they're going to sign. And when you make that offer, if it gets countered back, you should know how to handle that. That's what's up. Until next time, I love it. I love it. I love it. I got to run. I got to go. Actually, got to jump on a coaching call. I'll see you real soon. Let's go get him, Tiger. Bye for now.